Welcome to Rising Leaders, Stories of Young Athena, episode 10. Today, we are chatting with one of our Young Athenas from over a year ago. How time flies when we're having fun. This is Sydney. She's a paralegal from Maricopa County Office of the Public Defender, a proud alum of the 4th Athena cohort, and also a proud alum of GCU as well. You're incredibly passionate about advocacy, especially when it comes to supporting communities that are often overlooked. You're driven by the belief that everyone deserves respect and dignity, and you're dedicated to making those who are forgotten get the support that they need. That's a really powerful position, so I'm going to dig into that in a little bit. So welcome, Sydney.
Thank you for having me.
Give me a kind of the lowdown on actually what you do, because I think people are very familiar with the public defender system. Like, we all know it exists. I think there's most of us who've ever been through the legal system understand that the Office of the Public Defender exists. But really, truly, tell me a little bit about what's its purpose.
Yeah. So the Office of the Public Defender and any public defense firm across the country really focuses on providing the constitutional right to an attorney. And that's a really special position because no matter who you are, what your background is, there will be an attorney given to you. And it's really powerful because in Maricopa County, you have a whole team, a paralegal, a mitigation specialist, people who will work above and beyond to give you the best representation possible.
That's awesome. So under that umbrella, are there positions within the public defender's office? Like, do you have to apply to be an attorney under the public defender's office? Is it like open jobs kind of, or is it like, how does that kind of work?
Typically in our office, because of how many people want to work at our office, people come in as law clerks, meaning they're third-year law students, and they will become clerks, graduate, take the bar, and start off as new attorneys and work their way through a few different courts before they become normal attorneys in like our trial group, where I'm in the trial group. So I'm seeing a wide range of cases, but we have a vehicular unit, a capital unit for death penalty cases, and our division sees everything else. And so typically attorneys work their way up, get experience in different courts, really gain some help from some supervisors before they come to our level.
That's really amazing. Did you always want to go into law or be affiliated with law?
Originally, I did not. I originally at GCU was a biology major. I thought I was going to be pre-med. And even though I went into college with that love for sports medicine and orthopedics, I eventually found out the classes, especially things like organic chemistry, weren't fulfilling or weren't driving passion for me. And so in my sophomore year, I switched to GCU's legal emphasis government degree, and I instantly fell in love with it. I saw so much passion in my classes, from Constitution class to public policy. Every class just captivated me. And it wasn't until I interned with the public defender's office that I even thought about wanting to go into law school or thought about being a lawyer. And I'm just so fortunate to have been on this path and see that GCU really laid the foundation for what justice can look like. And I see that being brought to life in my office currently.
So good. Isn't it great when you just like trip and fall into like life's purpose?
Mm-hmm.
I was just having a conversation with so she's actually my ex-stepdaughter, which is weird, but when I married my first husband, it was his daughter, and like we're not together anymore, but she's still he and I have a daughter together, so she's still Athena's older sister, which is really cute. But she just came over and she's like, oh, I'm afraid to start school because like she doesn't know what to choose. And so I kept telling her, I was like, we have to stop boxing kids in so hard to like, this is what you're going to be for the next 30 years of your life, because it's just not a realistic perspective. And so I was telling her the example of like, sometimes when you're given a map and there's like a lot of beaches, you get to the first beach and you're like, oh, I want to live here forever. And then you go to the second beach and you're like, oh, this one's actually way better. Why didn't I try this one first? But if you never open your mind up to like that exploratory nature, I work with so many young people that box themselves in and they're like, oh, well, I'm already here. And I'm like, degrees kind of need to be like shoes. Like, as weird as that sounds, like try a couple of them on and see which one fits, because otherwise you would have spent your life like being in the medical field and missed this whole beautiful passion of yours that that revolves around law. So I'm super proud of you for just like stepping out of that And then you fell into this beautiful internship, right? Tell me a little
Yeah.
about that. Like, how did you fall into this internship, and then how has that subsequently got you to the position you're in now?
Yeah, to be honest with you, before I was in the Young Athena program, I was pretty much a loner in college and I would focus on homework and I was never looking at anything besides getting good grades. So I wasn't looking at internships, I wasn't looking at other opportunities. And it wasn't until the Athena program that I really kind of got this confidence to say like why would I not be great for this internship? And it really I got to drop that baggage I gave myself and I was able to pursue these things. And I found the internship by coincidence during the summer before my senior year. I was researching it and I didn't know anything about public defense, but I saw the application deadline was in the fall. So I bookmarked it and I was like, I'll deal with this when it comes around. And I applied. I remember I was telling the leaders at Athena that, oh, I applied for this and I got it. And I interviewed. And in January of 2024, I started with the program, the internship. And I was completely swept away by it and what I was able to do. Right from the start, I was working on cases, I was watching body cam, I was working with attorneys on things that would be prevalent in a trial or preparing a trial binder for a trial. And they didn't stop us from getting integrated into what the work would actually look like. So it's kind of a domino effect of having this lack of confidence and then the Athena program helping me realize that I am good enough for the internship I apply for. And now I'm working for the public defender. So it's been a great journey.
I love that so much. So, what initially drew you to the Young Athena program in the first place?
I think it was honestly a little bit of that fear of how am I going to get a job if I don't have a lot of things on my resume? And I felt that at GCU, I was in the honors college and I just kind of had that as a label. I never really did anything with it. And the email I got for Athena just really was captivating. And I was like, I'm the target audience for this. I should give it a chance, especially my senior year. I was, I think, one of two seniors in the program, that cohort. And I thought, why not? Like, what's nothing, something could come of this. I should take that chance. And I'm amazingly happy that I did take that chance because I wouldn't be where I am today without it.
This is always so exciting. Like, I think I have an understanding. Like, obviously, I helped build the program. Like, we have had a relationship with the Athena program for a long time and all of that. But sometimes I think hearing it out of you all, like all of these wonderful, wise young women in the world, creating change, advocating, like all of that, I just like, I'm always so humbled by, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is my job.
Yeah.
Like, I get to inspire young people to be their absolute best selves. And I like always am like the one in the back of the room, I'm the crier. I don't have to explain that to you.
We were all crying. I remember that graduation and we were all in tears.
Yeah. I remember your graduation speech being like very impactful. What did that moment mean to you? Like, what was that
For
graduation? What did that feel like for you?
Yeah, I think for me, the first thing was it was a big foreshadow of what was to come the following semester, which was my graduation from GCU. And a lot of these feelings of being scared for what's next, but knowing what I'm going through currently is equipping me for what's next. And I felt that the most rewarding part of graduation was to really reflect on what the program had done. And I remember my big theme for my speech was all of us are the legacy of the women who have come before us, and how we might not know those women personally, but their strives forward have paved our path. And I felt the same ways in that program as I do now at my job about how there's women who have worked ahead of me and they passed that ladder down and they helped me pursue that path. And so it was nice to reflect on that in my graduation. I was definitely sad that the program was over. I wish it could go almost a whole year, so it'd be fun to do it again. But it was a good moment to reflect on all the progress we had made as a group.
So good. Was there a defining moment in Young Athena where you just finally like looked at yourself in the mirror and were like, oh, I am going to see myself differently and shift my perspectives on leadership and like who I want to be in the world?
Yeah, I think there were so many revelations throughout the program that truly changed my perspective on myself, what my job could look like, what my impact in the world could be. I think that first one, and I think a lot of young Athenas would agree with me, was core values, because I remember it was so daunting to narrow down that list of how would I define myself? How would I describe what I value? But when I was able to come to those three, I was very positive that that's who I am. And I'm able to see that in my work. One of them was kindness. And I think that approaching everyone with kindness, especially clients, is the easiest thing. Like, I should be able to afford that to everyone. And it is a blessing I can. And I really love that that's something I value. I'd say another one was advocacy, because in the moment it didn't really impact me, but as I went into this internship, I was able to pull upon that and really bring that into it. And I really identify with that now, and I think Athena laid that foundation for me to identify with it. I keep the Athena advocacy paper from our binders in my office, and I have it in eyesight, so I remember where I started from, and so that's really special to me.
Oh, I love that so much. Yeah, and I think we think we're good at advocacy until you said you're like in a position, you're like, oh wow, I feel like maybe I might have never done this before. I just had a revelation, maybe like I was recording a podcast episode with Dr. Quaid. Shout out Dr. Quaid. Love you big. And I like had it dawned on me that I'm super great at advocacy for other people. I'm not super good at advocacy for myself. It is a skill set that I have built over time because I have been so like, I've just not been good at advocating for me. And I will let things happen and I will let people's behaviors get bypassed and I will forgive because my core value is heart. So I just always want to give more chances. And so that self-advocacy piece hasn't been a thing that I've actually really been good at. And so that's even now at 38, here I sit and I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually thought I was good at this. And I actually am really not. But being willing to sit in that space of like, okay, I'm willing to learn. Yeah, it's so great. So I love that you have lots of leadership lessons. And I think that's the whole point of the program is like giving you guys a leadership principle, and then you get like a whole week to kind of sit in that. And if you could give yourself advice, right, from when you right before who you were before starting Athena to like who you would say you are now, what advice would you have given your previous self to just like dive in and give it your all?
I think I would give myself the advice of really trying to connect to others. I feel like in my job, I'm now able to do that with clients and see people on that different level. But if I was able to do that with my fellow Athena sisters a little earlier, I think it can be scary to do that because you're really, it's intimate to be able to like let that go and share those emotions. And I've always been definitely more an introvert and a loner and never really very social. And so that was definitely a hard thing. And I think if I could go back, I would say it's going to be all right. These are people going through the same thing as you, and you can really grow with them. And so I'd say that's the piece of advice I would give is definitely just to everyone's human. This is our first time all being alive and we're all doing it together. So don't stress what other people are going to think about you.
Right. That's what we always say, right, in Athena, where I'm like, this is not the Grammys. There's not going to be a newspaper article about you in the newspaper tomorrow that the entire city's going to read. Like, it's okay. Just show up for yourself, right? Yeah, no, that's super powerful. And I think part of that is just eliminating the self-doubt, right? The self-doubt piece of maybe I'm not good enough to be in this room with all these other women. Maybe I don't have anything to add. Maybe I don't have anything to learn. Maybe I don't have anything to share, right? And so it's like there's all these doubts that I think a lot of you sit in the cohort and fight. Or even to the conversation about the values, I think there's a lot of perspectives where it's like, oh, I am really good at this. And then we like teach you the lesson and you're like, wait a minute. Like if you go back and like look at all of these podcasts, so many of them are like, I really thought I was good at living authentically. Turns out I wasn't. Right. And so I think that's the power of it too, is like, you're gonna have self-doubt in your career. You're gonna have self-doubt in life. There's gonna be times where you get handed a project by a boss and you're like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what I'm gonna do. And that's normal, right? Like that's something that you're gonna come up with, but how do we teach you how to better cope in situations like that versus having those self-deprecating thoughts that actually destroy your confidence? So talk to me a little about that. I'm sure stepping into a brand new internship, stepping into a brand new job, right? Like right out of college, there's probably been like quite a bit of that self-doubt that's come up for you, just like trying to relearn like what your guardrails are and all of this. So tell me a little about that. How have you worked through handling any self-doubt or things of that nature?
Yeah, I think for me going into this job, it was really easy for me to feel that self-doubt because I, I'd done this internship and knew that I loved the work, but I felt that I'm straight out of college, I'm new here, and it's not necessarily, I would say my office has a wide array of ages involved. We have a lot of people who have been there for decades. You have a lot of people who are out of college, out of law school, out of grad school. So people are at different phases of their life. And that was intimidating to me because I would work a lot with people who are older than me, who have been in it. And as a fresh college grad, that's really intimidating. You're used to being in classes where your peers are typically your same age. And so that was a lot to not doubt myself. Or I remember there was a phase where I was learning so much, and you would get to the point where you hate to ask questions because you're like, I wish I just knew it. I wish I didn't have to ask because it was a whole new thing for me. And I think the biggest thing was overcoming that self doubt and knowing that asking questions doesn't mean you're stupid. It doesn't mean you don't know. It doesn't mean you're inherently not good at something. It's a whole new system, a whole new thing to learn. And so asking those questions means you're just trying to do your best and trying to do the work right. So that was something definitely to learn, especially because I think it takes a year for me, for paralegals, to get really comfortable with the work and the routine. So it's definitely been a journey of knowing I have those resources. And another thing is knowing that the people in my office want me to succeed. The people I work with want to see me succeed for the sake of our clients. And so they're always willing to answer questions. And I think I had to take the initiative to want to talk to them and to want to ask those questions, whether it be about a case or what law school's like. I think knowing that those people aren't off limits to you. Whether you're out of college fresh or you're new at a job, those people aren't out of limits and they're on your team to help you.
So good. And okay, so let's talk about what you just said, though. One of the things you just said was it takes a year to learn the systems, right? So you've been in this now over a year, right? You started your internship in January, last January, right? 2024?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so now we're looking at a little over a year. How are you feeling now? Like, I'm sure there's still a lot to learn, but are you feeling like more, like better about, or more ramped up and have a higher level of readiness?
Yeah, I remember my boss told me very early into my job that it will take you a year to get used to everything. And that annoyed me because I'm like, I wish I could just all know it right away so I never had to ask any more questions and I was a pro. But even now, I've been with the office officially hired as a paralegal for eight or 9 months now. And even like this upcoming week, I'm going to go do something I've never done before with my job. And it's exciting to still have those things to pursue, but it definitely took patience. I think a lot of young Athenas, we're honors college. We like to have our good grades. We like to do everything 100%. And so those moments of uncertainty, you could feel kind of jeopardized in who you are. But it's good to know to grow the patience with yourself and the patience with growing your knowledge in your field, to know that it's okay, that it's going to take me a while to nail these things. And the more time it takes, I'm going to refine these skills. I'm going to get better at it. So it can feel a little uncomfortable. But, as we learn in Athena, striving for those uncomfortable feelings grows your courage and it grows your ability to kind of expand and do more things that feel scary.
Yeah. So a couple of cohorts back, we started calling those spiky hair moments. So you might see that on our Instagram page. My mom was like drawing, the comfort zone, and then she was like, and then the person in the middle, the stick figure, because we know LW and her stick figures, drew like it had hair, and then when it got to the edge of the comfort zone, she drew spiky hair on it, and so so now a lot of the young Athenas are like, oh, I need more spiky hair moments, and it's like become this really thing. But you're so right? The more that you grow your comfort zone, right, the bigger your reach, first of all, but then also it becomes a muscle, right? Your comfort zone is a muscle. And unless you fight your lazy and afraid brain, guess what? That's what's going to happen. Your comfort zone is going to take over. You're going to go back in your lazy and afraid brain, and that's it. That's where we are. So I'm super proud of you for just sticking it out and all of that. What do you think is your most surprising or eye-opening part of working in the legal field so far?
I think the most surprising thing for me working in the legal field is I think a lot of the judgment society makes about people, and then when you really meet someone who's going through struggles, to hear how they ended up where they are, because that's a big part of public defense work, is seeing something that happened with someone, what they maybe did, and you really question what happened in this person's life to get them to that moment. And I think as a society, sometimes judgments are made on people to put them into these boxes, put these labels on people. But to know that, whether it was abuse as a child or something, no one's just like this and deserving to be in this label. That's why I love the work I get to do, because you get to hear their past, sit with them in that. I think the most important thing with my job is sitting with people in their trauma. That's a phrase that one of my mentors said. I get to go on jail visits where I'm sitting face to face with a client and an attorney. And sometimes there's this moment of silence where, the person on the other side is thinking about their actions, thinking about regret, thinking about what they did, and being able to sit with them in that trauma and really listen to what they've been through. It's a lot, but it's definitely the best part of what I get to do. So I'd say that really getting to know people on that personal level, where as a society we might see them as the thing they're charged with or that they're going to be going to prison for, but knowing that there's so much more than that.
Yeah, there's a story, right, behind every single one of those. A story of, sometimes it's like a broken childhood. Like everyone that I know that's ever been to prison is like, there's like a very broken young child that's still trapped in their body somewhere. And all of this is like these labels that they put on because that's how society has deemed them the whole time, right? Maybe you were the troublemaker in school because you had a broken home. And then instead of somebody stepping in and like taking you under their wing, you just are kind of like labeled by the system forever and ever. And then how could you ever be anything different than what everyone's told you that you are, right? Yeah. Yeah, that's an incredibly powerful position. So you've become like a space holder too, right? And maybe you're kind of there just witnessing the case too, but at the same time, like that holding that space is really important. Do you think you're going to go into law, or do you think you're going to go into policy work, or do you think you're going to stay here for a long time? Like kind of what's on the docket for you on that? Because it seems like you're loving it. So what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think for the near future, I'm definitely going to stay with this office and continue to grow and learn. It's such a great opportunity, and I love every day is amazing. It never truly feels like work, which is such a blessing. So I really do picture myself staying here for a while, but I know that my heart is definitely in law school. Another one of my core values was learning. And I remember at the end of my senior year, we presented our capstone projects, and mine was so tied to my work in the office that I remember I went up to my professor and I said, "It's really over." And she's like, "It's not over. You can go to grad school, you can go to law school, you can always continue to learn. And so you can expand the work you do in those fields." And so I know for me, my heart is definitely in pursuing law school. It's definitely a process to get into law school, but I'm working on it. And I definitely know that I see some amazing women at my job who, the way they can speak to a judge, the way they can advocate for a client, the way they can talk to a client's family to explain a really scary legal process, it's always inspiring. And whenever I get to witness that at work, it's another reminder to myself to say, okay, you remember, you got to go to law school. You have to work your butt off to get in. It's going to be a little difficult, but if I want to do what they're doing, I know it's the way. It is my obstacle, but it's the way I'll be going to be able to advocate in that way.
Yeah. Is there a specific type of law that interests you more than others? Because right now you've kind of probably been, you told me you're in one division of the public defender's office, but is there like any other types of laws that you'd explore?
Yeah, I think a big thing for me is knowing that when I do go to law school one day, I'm going to not go in with horse blinders. I think for me, public defense has given me this amazing perspective on the field, and I love the work. So I know already going in, I'd be interested in learning more about public defense, but I'm definitely going to go in and see what else there is to offer. I know in Arizona, we have a lot of tribes in our state, and I think Native American law could be interesting to advocate for them and with against the state government and really stand for their values and see what the state says and work together. I think that's something that I really find interesting. I'd like to learn more about. And I think I am interested in a little bit of policy. I think a lot of my job has to do with things that are voted on, laws that are added to the people for the people to vote on in the elections. And so I think that's something that's interesting as well. And so that's one thing that makes me really excited about going to law school, is knowing that there's many avenues I can explore, and I don't have to go in knowing, like I did undergrad, thinking I know what I want to do. I can go in and kind of take a little bit of everything and see what I like the most.
Oof, so good. I don't know if you saw it, but we did a podcast episode with our good friend Heidi Chance,
Mhm.
and she advocates for women in trafficking. Did you see that episode?
Mhm.
Yeah, because she talks about public policy all the time and how there's more prosecution on actually the women selling themselves than there is on the buyers. And so that's something she's been advocating for a lot. So I think truthfully, it's like we're never going to run out of space for law. You know what I mean? It's like
Definitely.
there's always room for something, but even tribal law, powerful. Like sometimes I'm so discouraged by how all of that is handled, but also I don't
Mhm.
experience it firsthand, right? And so I'm like, I only dip my toe in the things I see in the media or the things I can research myself. But yeah, I think that's a really great plan, is to not go in with blinders on. I actually love court, which is wild to say. Like most people are like, oh, I have to go to court. I'm like, oh no, I love court. I love
Yeah.
building cases. I love like I don't know. I have built a few cases in my time. I actually defended I was working at a real estate office, and um the board of the HOA that we were managing at the time sued him for all kinds of nonsense. They handed us this like pack of exhibits that were garbage. It was a whole thing. So I wrote like a 20-page response, outlined all the exhibits, some of the receipts they said we didn't turn in that were fraud, they included in their pack. They were already labeled exhibits that they had given to us. It was like a whole thing. So anyway, we ended up countersuing for defamation of character, and we won a $20,000 settlement. So
Nice.
I like at that point I was like, oh, I might do this forever. And I just realized you can be an LP in the state of Arizona, which
Mhm.
I would love to hang my own shingle. I don't want to try big cases. That's not what I'm here for. But I do want to represent the underdog that doesn't have access to like good legal advice. That's
Yeah.
where my heart is, right? I might not
Yeah, I
ever
love
make
that.
a dime doing it, and I'll probably pay for a master's degree, but at the end of the day, if it makes my heart happy, what does it matter, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I do want to touch on one thing, because I've never how, like, I know you were saying that you work with a lot of attorneys. So how has mentorship played a role? Like, do you work with a bunch of different attorneys, or are you kind of mentored by the same group?
The basic work setup is that a paralegal is assigned to four or five attorneys, and you're on their team and you work on any of their cases, and you stick with those select few. So I've been with these attorneys for 9 months, so you get that rapport, you know the style and the certain things they like, the way they like papers done. And I would say that, I have these attorneys who are so willing to ask me about, hey, have you thought about law school? And they give me advice, and they're willing to share things with me. One of my attorneys, she was in appeals. So she has these books, these massive binders of appeal documents that she wrote. And she's like, here, have these in your office and read them whenever you get a chance. And so she's exposing me to what legal writing looks like. And I am just so blessed that I have these people around me who are so willing to share the knowledge. It's very, very amazing to be able to know that your visions are, supported by these people. And I would say at my job, a big thing is I have a lot of women in my office who aren't my attorneys, but are very, very great. And they're very great mentors. For example, the one who I started my internship with, her name's Angela. She was the person that I emailed my resume to. She's the person who I interviewed with, who ran our orientation, and she was able to help me with my senior capstone project. And even now, I'm not under her jurisdiction because I'm not an intern, but I'll stop by her office and keep her updated. And I always have that resource. I remember my first jail visit was with a case that I had worked on as an intern, and I felt very just drawn to this case. And I remember after this jail visit, I was just in tears. I couldn't think of anything besides how I wish time travel could be invented so I could go back and stop this case from happening. But knowing that there's nothing I can do. And I remember I went to her office thinking, like, I need to tell someone about how I feel about this. And I just cried in her office about how I felt about this case and just really let it out. And she really listened to me, and she reminded me that the empathy I have is such a great tool in this field, but how sometimes it can be overwhelming and it will take time to use that tool properly. So I'd say that I'm surrounded constantly by people who want to see me succeed. And a lot of those people are women, and they've been on the path. So they really give me a lot of advice of things to look at, things to be aware of. And I get it every day at my job. So it's truly amazing.
Oh, I love that. You have a bunch of amazing, probably professional Athenas in your circle, it sounds like where
Mm-hmm.
that knowledge transfer, there's not that like challenge of if I share too much, you're going to steal my job. There's not like all of that weird nonsense that you get and sometimes in the corporate sector. So I love that for you. And
Mm-hmm.
she's so right. Like empathy is such a huge piece of really anything you're doing, that's any job you have that serves others, right? It's when that empathy gets used for like negative purposes. And I think there's a lot of people who are really empathetic in jobs and then they get used up by companies who take advantage. But it doesn't
Definitely.
sound like that's your experience over there, which I love that for you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yay. Oh, this is so good. I can't wait to like come to your law school graduation. And this is like
Yeah.
all however many years from now. It's so powerful. I think there's a lot of women that I think like the idea of law, but I think a lot of, and especially young students, unless you're exposed to law, you don't really understand. Like it still seems like a very overly masculinated industry. So kind of from that perspective, you've told me so much about so many wonderful women that you worked with. So if there's like young people out here exploring the idea of law, what advice would you give them? Is it still overly masculinated? Is it not? Is like kind of what is that experience like? I mean, I'm sure there's men in every industry now, but like I think just from perspective, because we all watch law shows and it was like Perry Mason and right, and it was a lot of men in the courtroom. So tell me kind of your experience about that right now.
Yeah, I would say a good anecdote to start off on that was in my Athena cohort. I remember when we had the panel, one of the questions was kind of geared towards all these women about how are you managing to have a family, to possibly have children, and be this full time Athena worker professional. And I remember it's this idea of you can have it all, just not at once, and it's going to look different. And so I think that's something that, as someone who wants to go to law school, can be kind of daunting. You're like, I want to do it all. Can I do it all? And I think it would definitely depend on the field of law you're in and the office that you're in. Uh, Private law is definitely going to be different. Again, that mentor I mentioned earlier, she said that she had some fellow law school graduates who went to private law, and that if they took maternity leave to have a baby, it was not easy for them to come back. A lot of them didn't go back because it's kind of this boys' club, and if you took that time off, you're kind of out. But that's not the case in, I'd say, a lot of government law offices. Definitely not my office, because we have there's such a support for knowing that women might take time off to have family, and there's a lot of women who work in my office. I couldn't say I know the exact percentage of men and women in the office, but it's definitely very 50-50. I feel like I'm encountering a lot of women. Half my lawyers are women, the other half are men, the ones I personally deal with. So I got a wide variety there. And I think a big thing is for young women, if they want to go into law and if they know they would be interested in having a family one day, is to kind of see, is this office a place that would support that? I think with my office, it's very supportive. I remember that when I started, there was some women about to go on maternity leave, and we have a little office chat, and the attorney supervisor posted a picture of the baby from the lawyer and said, oh, mom and baby are doing well, and they get that good time off to really bond with babies, both parents. And it's so amazing to know, like, okay, I could do this all in this office. And so I think for young women who are interested in going to the legal field, definitely take a look around when you're interning, when you're learning about offices, when you're shadowing, to say how are they treating family, how are they treating women, and what is the makeup of this office. That definitely helped me in knowing that my office is a great place for women who want to do that.
Oh, so powerful. So powerful because there's so I mean even benefits in general, right? I have a lot of clients that work for the state, and that was one of the things that when I first found out, one of them was telling me, she's like, "Oh yeah, I brought my baby to work." And I was like, "What? How cool in 20 I mean, I think this was a couple years ago even, but I'm like, how cool in the age we're in now where it's like now there's flexibility where we're starting to recognize that women can do it all and like it's okay to create space to hold all of us, right? Not just my work self and my mom self and my home self and my daughter self and my sister, right? It's like now workplaces are starting to be like, oh, you're a whole person. How do we support your whole person? So incredibly powerful. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. All right. So looking ahead, what impact do you hope to make on the world, whether through work or through the legal system or beyond? Like, what's this legacy that's on your heart right now?
Yeah, I know for sure I'm striving towards that law school right now. That's the number one barrier I got to get past, but that's something that my heart's in. And so I'm excited to pursue that challenge, and I'll be working on that. But I think I really want to explore those passions. And I know for a big one for me was the theme of my capstone project as a senior, which was focusing on, is age 18 an appropriate way to see if someone's an adult for a criminal sense. And I got to talk to lawyers who work with JTOP, which is a program in our county which helps young offenders and tries to support them through jobs, through housing, to prevent them from, reoffending. And then I looked at cases where people were sentenced to life in prison as a juvenile. So they did something under age 18. Typically, that's going to be more of a murder case, and they're sentenced at 14, 16, 17 years old to be in prison for the rest of their life. And that's something that I would love to tackle as a lawyer one day. I know my office has a lot of lawyers who currently work in that field, and they send these challenges up to the Supreme Court about, this isn't right, and we're going to stand for these people who are in prison, who have been in prison for 20, 30, 40 years, and get them out, because we don't feel that it's constitutional that they are serving the rest of their life in prison for something they did when they were a minor and their brain wasn't developed. So I know for me, that's something I definitely want to work on, because change can be made in that way. And I think that's an important thing for people to know who want to go into this field, is that you can definitely change things through policy. However, at the Supreme Court level, at any of these court levels, these decisions you bring up to the court, these cases you bring to the court, can truly make a change in how they are worded, how they're looked at, and how people are charged. And so I think for me, my heart's definitely in exploring how juveniles are charged with adult crimes. And my office allows people to kind of specialize in that. So I'm hoping to learn more about that as time goes on. And that's kind of where my heart is now. But I'm definitely in love with public defense. I love the work that we get to do as an office. And I love being able to stand next to someone when they're being judged for the worst thing they've ever done in their life, and stand next to them and tell them they're not alone in this.
You're going to change the world, girl.
Thanks.
I know it. I feel it. Every time I do a podcast episode, I'm literally sitting here thinking, I don't know that I could be more inspired. And then I do the next one, and I just continue to be more and more inspired. I learn so much from all of you, even though we share the space where technically I'm your teacher and you're my student. But I think what the idea is that you take the information that I provide and you're like, let me blow it up times 150 and see where it gets me. And then I get to just witness this beautiful journey of all that you are and all that you'll ever become. And I just feel so completely honored. So,
well, thank you for all you've contributed to it.
Honored, for real. Yeah. It's my life's passion to just empower women to be all that they can be, right? It's just truly unlocking potential. And it's just such a magical way to do it. And the Athena model gives me the ability to frame unlock in a way that's palatable, easy to follow conceptually. But you guys do the hard stuff. I don't even do the hard stuff. I introduce you to yourself inside the hard stuff, and then you're like, oh, I really like her. I actually want to unlock her all the way. So yeah, it's definitely. So for the sake of time, I'm going to wrap us up, but I just want you to know how proud I am of you. You're doing incredible work in the world. I'm always happy to be a resource for whatever you need. If it's a LOR for law school, if it's whatever that looks like, how I can help you get through the threshold of law school. I know that it's probably a lot of scheduling and a lot of finances and a lot of that, but if there's ever any way I can support you on your journey of that, I'm happy to do so, because I just know that once you hit that next goal for yourself, not that you're not changing lives now, because we all know that you are, but once you start to truly unlock the potential of where you can go as an attorney, I think you're just going to do incredibly valuable things for humanity. And honestly, how many attorneys have you ever met whose core value is kindness? Right? Like
Appreciate it.
there's some secret sauce in there that's going to do some magical things. So just
Oh, thank
incredibly
you.
happy and proud of you.